From today, many parents in England are entitled to 30 hours of free care for children that are 3 or 4 years old, and that is double what was available before. It depends on the parents meeting certain criteria. They need to be in work but not earning over £100,000 a year. But there are a number of concerns with the system. Some parents have been complaining that the application process has not worked, and nurseries are saying that they are facing a significant shortfall in funding. Well, we're going to talk now to Neil Leitch, who's the Chief Executive of the Preschool Learning Alliance. It represents some 14,000 members. And Karen Brain, a mum of 3, whose youngest daughter is eligible for the free childcare. And Karen, I just wonder whether you've gone through the application process, I think. How has that been for you?
It's been an absolute nightmare to me. Last week, I was doing the process, only to be told that even if I did apply, because obviously I had to do it 2 weeks before commencing work, I actually commenced my new job at the beginning of September the 11th, so I couldn't actually apply not until this week. I was then advised that even by applying, there's 5 weeks backlog, and I wouldn't actually get a code in time for my daughter to be eligible to go to the nursery.
So you were facing what you felt was just too much bureaucracy on this?
That's correct. Far too much red tape, because obviously I had secured my job. I was trying to apply online, to be told that I couldn't apply not until 2 weeks beforehand, which then I'm being told that there was a 5-week backlog, and even if I did apply before the 31st of August, I wouldn't actually get getting a code, so therefore my daughter wouldn't have childcare. Automatically means that I'm working for nothing, which is obviously detrimental. I thought the government was actually trying to get, you know, people from benefits into work and not actually put obstacles in their way. And all I feel is that that's what I've had. It's not until that I've taken it to the media that I've actually had any response.
And what response have you had?
The media has been backing me 100%. I joined a social media group, explained my situation, that, you know, I was in a position where I either take the job and work for nothing, or if I did work, then obviously it would have a detrimental financial restraint on me, or I don't actually work at all. And I thought that the government was trying to help people back into employment, and I didn't realise there was so much red tape and bureaucracy.
OK, well, that's the parents' perspective. Let's get the perspective of the childcare providers themselves with you, Neil. And what seems to be happening is that the legal requirement to provide these extra hours is causing some childcare providers to say they might actually have to close down.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first thing to say is there's no such thing as free childcare. At the moment, as you alluded to, every 3 and 4-year-old is entitled to 15 hours of free childcare for 38 weeks of the year, although that can be spread across the year. But the way in which that works for providers is that they're able to effectively cross-subsidise it by those parents who take additional hours. So if you take 25 hours, if you take 30 hours at the moment, 15 hours of those will be at a slightly higher rate, so that they will effectively fund the inadequate funding that comes from government. Now, of course, if you remove the ability to do that, then you just exacerbate the problem. And so providers are struggling even further now to be able to deliver this offer.
But I don't understand. I mean, the government tells us, look, we are giving an additional £1 billion a year by 2019-2020. Yeah. You know, they are making sure that 15,000 children will benefit from places. So, you know, they're doing their part.
Well, let me just say, first of all, more money doesn't necessarily mean enough money.
Why not?
And, well, let's look at that £1 billion. I tell you what's quite interesting is that 5 months before this policy basically came out, when Labour were contemplating offering 10 hours of free childcare, so not 15 hours, but 10 hours, the then minister, a Conservative minister, is on record giving evidence to the House of Lords Affordable Childcare Committee, and he said Do you know how much this would cost? At least £1.5 billion. Now, in my reckoning, if you then extend it to 15 hours instead of 10, that comes to £2.25 billion. So by government's own admission, surely they're investing less than 50% that's required. So there's a shortfall. It's interesting, this morning I received a letter from the Chief Executive of the Early Childhood Council in New Zealand. And this country always quotes New Zealand as being a great exemplar. He said to me, a few years ago, we introduced 20 hours of free childcare. A couple of years later, the government dropped the word free, and they dropped the word free because they realised they couldn't fund it. We're already at that position.
But you do have examples of success stories. I mean, in Northumberland, 100%, all the providers in Northumberland signing up to deliver the 30 hours.
It doesn't necessarily...
So it's working.
Well, it doesn't mean it's working. It's interesting that providers will sign up to this because they're petrified, frankly, that if they don't offer the 30 hours, that particular parent will go off down the road to somebody else. They will restrict the number of places that they offer. They will also have to charge additional extras for things like lunches and trips, and they will increase the prices to those parents who do not qualify for the additional 15 hours. So that doesn't mean it's working, Matthew.
Neil, thanks from you. Karen, let's just come back to you. What's your solution then? Are you going to have to make a choice between working and continuing down this path, or just deciding not to work?
Well, that's a decision which I was thinking about last week. I was beside myself with worry and stress, thinking, what am I going to do? Luckily, with the help of the press and the media, which has changed this 360 degrees, because from not being able to apply, this week I've been able to do an application over the phone, which has changed since last week. I've also demonstrated my urgency, and it seems to have been saying that on the 31st, as long as you apply, you will be eligible for your free 30 hours childcare, and they were backlog. Now, I'm lucky because I think that without the help of the media, I wouldn't have been able to get my free childcare, and as quickly as what I did. So I think that, you know, I fast-tracked, which a lot of people probably wouldn't have been able to do. And I'm now in a position, which has been confirmed this morning, that my child now has her free childcare or nursery place.
Karen Brain?
Yes.
Sorry, slightly interrupting you on the line there, but thank you very much for joining us and explaining all that, and also thanks to you, Neil Leitch, as well. The government has told us that they are providing an extra £1 billion a year to pay for this measure, as I said. They've added as well that the 30-hour offer is already being delivered in several areas across the country, with over 15,000 children benefiting from a place. We know from our evaluation that providers are committed to offering 30 hours, and the additional hours are having a really positive impact on families, taking huge pressure off families' finances. That is the government's opinion of all this. You heard one parent's opinion of all this.